All right. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Getting Started.Life, a show where we introduce you to new endeavors and give you the 5 steps to start a new endeavor and the one mistake. And I want to get right to this show because our guest today is Debra Swan. And Debra is a wellness and health coach, personal trainer. I'm not sure if I got all of them. We're going to talk a little bit about your background before, but it was a big list. I knew I was going to I'm trying to get them all. I'm not trying not to put my glasses on because of the glare. Um, and we're going to talk about starting your day out right. And we talked about on this show so many times, kind of background for you, Debra, these big things like, big life changes. And as we were kind of talking on what would be a good topic, like I was really taken with this because it's like a little thing that everybody should likely want to change. So before we get into the steps, I would really love to know a little more about your background because you cover such ground.
Sure. Yeah. So I am a health and wellness coach and a personal trainer. I have always had health and wellness as a big part of my life, but not professionally. I've always been thinking about how to eat well and stay physically active. And I've always supported my friends and family with their health related goals. I started my profession as a speech language pathologist many years ago, and then life took me in unexpected work directions. And then I recently had an opportunity to make a professional shift, did some reassessments, what I thought was important in life, went back to school and got my certifications and decided to start my own company so that I could structure my programs the way I thought would be most supportive for my clients instead of trying to fit into someone else's framework. And here I am now. It's great. I love it. Absolutely. So the most rewarding thing I've done.
Well, I love that we're talking about change and you've done it, right? Like you've taken steps to doing things. So I think it adds a ton of credibility, and I love that. Now, I did forget in the beginning, the show is brought to you today by Keystone Mediation as well as Red Leg Funding. Wanted to give a shout out to our sponsors, but now into the meat of this, right? So let's talk about, like, from your perspective, like the mindset of a good day, right? Before we get into the steps, because I think you bring a lot of perspective in, that what that really means.
Right. And what a good day to you might be something different than what a good day is to me, right? So it's deciding for yourself what is a good day, and just knowing that your morning routine and what you do in the morning sets the tone for the rest of your day. So the idea is to establish some healthy habits and a routine that starts your day off the way you want it to start and sets you up for a successful day.
Now, do you think that is that actually a step, or is this mindset, is it something where, again, I think we talk about like the simple versus easy, right? Like I think these steps will people will be like, "Pfft, of course, that's really simple. But the easy part, right? This is the really wanting to have a good day, right? Like really, really being deliberate in that regard.
Right. And the trick is to start your habits so that they're both simple and easy, so that they're really it's easy to do and you're not tackling on too much, especially in the morning when it's something that's busy and rushed for a lot of people. But yeah, it's mindset, it's your actions, and setting an intention.
I love that. So let's jump right in. Like now that somebody said, you know what? Now that I look at it, I'm letting my morning routine work me instead of me working it or whatever. What's a good first step for somebody to do when they've made that decision?
Yeah. So there are a couple things, and again, it's very important to keep in mind that your morning routine and what you consider a successful day is unique to every person, and it depends on your job, right? If your job starts at 7 a.m. versus at 10 a.m., whether you have kids that you have to get up and out in the morning, whether you're a morning person or a night owl, and all that, and that factors in. So we have to be realistic within the limitations and the requirements of our unique schedule. So maybe in the morning you've got 20 minutes to fit a routine in, and maybe your day, you're a bartender, your day doesn't start until much later. So you've got a couple hours that you can dedicate to your routine. But one thing that everyone should really do that doesn't take much time is to start your day with a glass of water.
Wow.
Super
Really?
simple, right? But you've spent the night, your body is probably dehydrated. You haven't had anything to drink for a long time. And so get up and you're in the bathroom, you brush your teeth, grab a glass of water.
So I had a question before we get into it, because step one, well, my question was going to be, as people think of these routines, should they be able to, are there different routines for setting a mindset and a deliberate approach to your day on a weekend or a day off versus not? Now, drinking the water, I think probably will cover both. But before you got too far down the path, I wanted to understand what your thoughts were on that, because for me, I'm a very different guy on the weekends, right? Um, I mean, I tend to work on the weekends, but all the time. But generally, somebody might have defined days off. My kids are different people psychologically. Like on a Saturday, all of a sudden it's like, wow, you're up at 5 and you're not tired, and it's so it's weird. But is that something that they should be doing as well?
Yeah, so the five things that I've identified are something that everyone can do every morning, whether
Okay.
it's a Wednesday morning or a Sunday morning. How you do it might be different, right? Because on a Sunday morning, you can be more leisurely about drinking your glass of water, but on a Wednesday, you're rushing, so maybe you like just want to get the glass of water done. And I think um, this can be true for most people, said whether you're a kid or an adult, an elderly adult. Like these are just some basic things that everyone can employ to start their day right.
All right. So now another question before we go to two. There are certain times where that morning is going to be terrible. Like you're going to a wedding with an open bar, and that next day is not going to be your routine. And you might even be somewhere like on vacation. You might be at a hotel. Are these is there like a cheat time, or do you think you try and stay as close to these 5 steps that we're going to go through?
So, I mean, ideally, and again, these are really simple steps. So, even on an off day, this is stuff that most people will be able to do. I think being really harsh and setting up strict rules for yourself, and then a day doesn't go as planned, and then thinking like, oh, I can't even get my morning routine right, is just a wrong attitude. These are aspirations, 5 things we can do, and the reality is if you're not doing any of them, my recommendation would be to maybe start with one and try adding one for a week, and then if you find that that's working for you, add another one. And maybe these things aren't something that works well for everyone. And so you, again, the theme is always make it your own, and start slow and simple and easy.
I like it. And you could like gamify it, right? You could have a partner in the house and like have a water chug contest, like your first step of the day, and then there you go.
Yeah, I mean, my sister and I, every now and then when one of us feels like, we're not hydrated enough, that say to each other, like, let's be accountability partners, and we take a picture of our morning glass of water and text it
Cool.
to each other.
I
So
like
yeah,
that.
you can find an accountability partner just to keep you on track.
So now that someone's had a drink of water, what's the good next step? Like, what should they do?
Yeah, get some sunshine, get some bright light. Tell your body that it's morning and it's time to get going. So
That,
maybe that
that-
means opening if you have those night blinds, just opening them up. If, your partner's still sleeping, going into the bathroom, turning on all the lights, just signal to your body that it's morning and it's daytime and it's time to get going.
I'm laughing as you're talking about sunshine and you're vacationing down there in Florida, and I look like that I've joined some kind of terrorist organization, down in this bunker down here. But I get it, and I was actually going to ask when you say get some sunshine. you know, Up here, wintertime, it's terrible, right? When I was in the academy, we used to call it the gloom period in the winter like this, where, the sun doesn't come up. So if you're up or you have to be at a job early and there's not going to be sunshine, you're recommending turn all the lights on, really like jump in with both feet.
Yeah, just get some bright light. If you're the kind of person who needs, there are those special lights that mimic sunshine to give you some vitamin D, but that's like a whole nother topic. Just signal to your brain that it is daytime. Get your circadian rhythm like all synced up, and so maybe it's sunshine, maybe it's some like diffused light through a cloudy Chicago day, and maybe it's just a bunch of lights in your house because the sun isn't even up yet.
So, question, because both of these seem very, again, deliberate. Are you, so before you even drink the water, are you a big alarm? Obviously, snooze bar is not part of what you're like you when you're up kind of thing.
And that's for later in my don't do this.
Right, right, right. No, I get, but then you're about like get up, like when you're ready to get up, get up.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so your big alarm setting, do that. Now, do you about the same time every day, or is it that less important than the same steps?
So, so research talks about when people struggle with getting good quality sleep. Research shows that one of the best strategies is to set a consistent wake time. So, during the week, you might have one consistent wake time, and on the weekends, you might have another. So, yeah, I mean, you know your day and you know how much time you need in the morning, or as you work through a routine, you're figuring that out. And then so you can count backwards from, if I need to leave the house at 7 a.m. and it's going to take me this long to get ready, then I need to set the alarm at 6 or something like that.
So there is a lot of backward planning, it sounds like, and I like this because you can't have a routine like this is my kids, right? Where you could wake them up at different, they'll still be late, right? You could say, okay, I'm waking up a half an hour early. Somehow that time is like fluid in a container. It'll fill that container, but it seems like what you're saying is give yourself enough time to where it doesn't become rushed and you're skipping a step potentially, or you're just creating stress out of a routine that you shouldn't.
Right, because the whole point of this is to eliminate the chaos, right? Eliminate the rush and eliminate the stress. If you start off your day rushed and stressed and chaotic, then maybe it's harder to shift that tone into an intentional in control kind of day. So if we plan, if we make sure we have enough time, obviously stuff comes up, but if the most we can do to know what we want to do and have the time to do it, the easier it is.
All right, now here's another question before we get to three, because this almost seems like the weight loss thing, right? Where someone in the house decides they're going to lose weight, but if everybody else isn't on board, right, then not only is there a matter of temptation, there's outright like, you know, not helping, I guess. I didn't want to say like sabotage, but like there's people aren't part of it. Is this something where if you're recommending, I mean, people who live alone, no big deal, right? But other people could get sabotaged or just go off the rails by other people in the household. Is this something where when you're coaching someone on this, that they're like, hey, go to the whole family and say, this is important to me and I really want to do this and you're going to like me better kind of thing.
Yeah, and certainly, being able to structure your environment in a way that supports new habits is one of the biggest keys to success, and having a support system in place. So your physical environment and then the people in that physical environment supporting you, like my sister being an accountability partner for drinking water, having your kids or your partner saying like, hey, you wanted to open the blinds when you get up, did you get your morning light? Or and it comes in more with the other steps, having that support system. So absolutely, everything's easier with a buddy to make sure you can do it. And maybe that person recognizes that they'll have a better day if they follow these steps too, and so it could
Right.
be a family activity.
Yes, it becomes viral, right? Like, so now it's funny as you were thinking, I'm like water and light. This is we're going down a whole plant direction here. So what's three? Like, so you've had your water again, you've hydrated, you've gotten some light, so your body knows that you're ready to take on the day. What do you do next?
So I think movement is really important. at the beginning of the day. And now I'm not saying at all that you need to go to the gym and get an hour workout. Some people, like, that's their exercise time and they have an hour in the morning to do something, but some kind of physical movement, whether it's, going to the gym, going around the block for a quick run, taking your dog out for a walk, or even 5 minutes of stretching, something just to get the blood flowing and get your body feeling good.
No, that makes sense. So it really sounds like you're talking about waking up your mind and body and
Absolutely.
and kind of going in that direction. I like that. And I think it is interesting because I think a lot of this comes down to, and I would be interesting to know how your coaching plays into this, having reasonable definitions, right? So, like, I'm a workout guy, right? So for me, it's got to be about, like, if I'm doing what you're talking about a half an hour, like I really am into it and I want to use it for the right thing. Now I try and multitask. If I'm like, binging a show, like I try and tie it into that, to get me more to give me more reason to work out. But for other people, could be different. And I would be interested to know, as a coach, like, when someone has no idea what that is for them, how do you put them on a path?
Yeah, so we work through what their day is like, and I try and keep things really practical for people. So it's really hard for some people because everyone has that mindset of, if I didn't go to the gym and I didn't wasn't there for an hour, that it's not a workout. But maybe 10 minutes is what you can fit in that day, and that's what you want to do, and that's a good way to get started. So um, the key is that it has to be, you keep it very personal and very specific to what you can do. Start small. If this is not something, if exercise and movement is not part of your morning routine, then don't plan an hour at the gym. Plan
Right.
some, like, literally get out of bed and stretch for 2 minutes before you even do anything else. If
Well, and,
that's
yeah, that's interesting how much of a difference that makes. Like, even like, yoga and meditation and all these things where it's just sort of doing that control alt delete on the brain, and really, you're kind of resetting for that day. I mean, I think it's hard to do the night before. You have to redo it when you come in and turn it on.
Mhm. Yeah. And, I have clients who are doing some stretching and some exercises that they literally do in bed, right? They wake up and they can do some core exercises and some stretches in bed. I have some clients who get out of bed and on the side of their bed, they're taking 5 minutes for some things. Other people are doing things while they're brushing their teeth. And then, others are off to a 45-minute yoga class. So it's really what works for you and what makes you feel like um, you're setting the right tone for your day.
Well, in my mind, as you're talking about bed exercises, that's a totally different show that we're going to do. We had one,
Not
we're
my
going to do another one.
expertise.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Um, but I was going to say, what happens? So, like, I'm a person who's got migraine issues, sinus problems, and all that, right? And what you're saying totally makes sense. Like, I'm totally on board. Again, I'm like a fanatic workout person, and there's some mornings though where I just wake up and literally it feels like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, dynamite in my head has exploded, and I'm in a huge amount of pain, and I've got to alter that day. Like, what's your advice? Is, now we're getting to this other part. Like, it's still easy. I could drink water, right? I could turn the lights on. But now it kills me, like, when I can't work out, right? Like, I'm like, if I try and lift a weight, I'm going to pass out, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you gotta let it go. There are we have habits, we have routines, and life happens. And so it's okay to miss a day. Sometimes it's even okay to miss 2 days. That doesn't mean that your day and you've broken the habit, right? You just start over the next day. So today you had a headache and your exercise isn't going to happen, and you're going to do the best with the other morning routine things. And then you know that you did your best, and you're sad that you missed your exercise, but you're dealing with a headache, and you can still be successful during the day, right? I mean, some people, they wake up and they think they're going to get in a trip to the gym, but their kids homesick, and so that changes everything, right? There's always going to be something in life that,
Right.
your 108-day streak is going to get broken by something, and so you start over. You acknowledge that life happens, and you wish you felt better, you wish you had the time, and it just didn't work out today, and you give yourself the freedom to acknowledge and start again the next day.
No, I love that. And actually, that's a good point. We're going to stop for a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and hear steps 4 and 5 and talk about the mistakes people can avoid.
Excellent.
All right, and we're back with Getting Started.Life, your show about starting new things and mistakes to avoid. As a reminder, this show is brought to you by Keystone Mediation and Red Leg Funding. Our guest today, Debra Swan, life coach, fitness coach. There's so much you cover. And what I really love, actually, before we get into step 4, is that I've sat on a couple of other shows. I've gotten really into Zen in a couple of years, and like a lot of the Eastern thing, really that there's not much separation of mind and body, right? It's all kind of one thing. I probably got that totally wrong. So anyone listening out there who can set me straight, definitely do so. But I love the fact that you're really not separating the two, right? Where people will say things like, I need my cup of coffee to get my brain going. And yours is sort of about getting the whole machine going at once. And I like that. So if you want to talk a little bit about that before we get into step 4, I would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So what I've learned is that being healthy is not going to the doctor and coming out with the doctor saying, "Yeah, you're healthy." Right? Being healthy and wellness is about how you feel. And so there's so many things that go into that. Everything from your physical environment supporting you, getting enough time with friends and family, getting relaxation time, and then of course the food that you eat and the physical activity you get. So, if you don't have a good work-life balance, if you're not satisfied in the area of personal growth, then you just might not feel well. And so all those things contribute. And for certain people at different times in their life, different things contribute to wellness. But overall, all those things are important and should be taken into consideration.
Well, and I love really like what you're talking about, right? Because I agree. I love the tie-in that fitness, like a lot of like stuff they're finding out about like gut bacteria and like your body's a system. You got to do it right. What I like with your steps so far is that like it's a reconnection, right? So you might have like monkey mind going on where there's a million things going into your mind, and it's like drinking and exposing yourself to light and then doing something to get your body moving. It's sort of reconnecting those two things. And I love that. So if you want to go to what do we do after step 4, right? So the blood's pumping. Now they're, I'm sure maybe it's showering, but that might not be the official step 4. So now what do they do next after getting the blood going?
So I always like to talk about breakfast. So some people will say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. For some people it is, and there are other people who just can't bring themselves to eat. Some people are thriving on intermittent fasting where their window might be later in the day than part of their morning routine. But I think if you are the kind of person that eats breakfast, it's important that your breakfast is a healthy breakfast that's going to support you for the day. So, um, you know, not a donut, some kind of protein and some fiber to get you going. So, whatever that breakfast is or is not, it should be. It should be something healthy and to support and nourish you so that you have the energy that you need for the day.
And it should always have sausage gravy and hot sauce on it. Uh, Actually, I don't eat as much meat anymore, but certain things, you got to have sometimes. So again, I guess I would go on the cheating side, right? Like I've totally changed my diet after I had open heart surgery. And I was like, okay, I'm going to kind of keep my weight down. But again, aren't there times where, and I joke about the sausage gravy thing, but I was out with a referral source the other day and we were having breakfast. I'm like, I gotta get the sausage gravy, right? And that gave me joy. Like how much about it is like what you're talking about and having the machine run right, and another times going, wow, this is gonna give me joy. And although it's not my normal step 4, but it's a good step 4.
Yeah. So this ties into being intentional about your routine. If you know you're going to go out and meet someone for breakfast and the place that you're going has the best sausage and gravy or the best pancakes in the city, if you want to be intentional and enjoy that, then go for it. But also maybe include a side of fruit or
Well,
something.
and I was gonna say, you don't want the Bloody Marys and mimosas to be part of the regular routine. You
You don't
you
want to
want that to
count
be on the
that
cheat
as your
days.
fruit or vegetable.
Right, right, exactly. But you know what? Those are the cheat days. So I like that. But if you could talk a little bit more too about, you know, with if people are intermittent fasting, right? It's intermittent, right? So there's times when they're eating and times when they're not, and their body is going to feel very different, right? Like there's been times where I intermittently fast just because I didn't have time to eat. And if you're someone who gets hangry, or even your blood sugar varies a little bit, I know the long-term benefits for some on intermittent fasting are pretty profound, from what I'm told, but there's times where your blood sugar is going to be a little bit messed up. And how do you deal with that? Because you're inserting variability into a routine.
Yeah. So whatever that first meal is and whenever it is, to make it a quality meal is my point. And if you're
Got it.
dealing with blood sugar issues, then you should probably check with your doctor to see if intermittent fasting is the right thing for you. For some people, it helps, and for others, it doesn't help. So that's something to check with your doctor. But my idea is more if breakfast is part of your day, make it a healthy breakfast, and whenever that first meal of your day is, make it a healthy first meal. So maybe you're eating at your first meal is at noon and it's not breakfast food, it's lunch food, but make it a healthy meal that's going to nourish you and provide you with the nutrients and the energy you need to carry you for the day. Because if you start with an unhealthy meal, then that's going like you're going to deal with blood sugar crashes and things like that if you go with the donut and coffee in the drive
Right.
through.
Right. Although there's some good donut places. Um, when you're talking about the nutrition side, right? Like, as I was joking, a whole nother show for the other topic. But again, it is a whole nother show. But many people now, they would be getting to step 4 and saying, okay, no one's ever taught me what a nutritious breakfast is. Maybe in their family it was a Pop Tart and something else because from time perspective, right? Or there could be a lot of reasons why people just don't have that knowledge. Where's a good place to start if people have questions on that?
I'd be happy to talk to people. There's a lot of information on the internet about healthy breakfast to start your day. Most people agree that having some protein and some fiber combined is a great breakfast. So, an omelet with lots of vegetables, some oatmeal with some nuts and some fruit in it, things like that are a great way to start your day.
That's awesome. So now, again, it's I like it. So now they put the fuel in the car, right? And everything's kind of going. What's that last step? What's the step then that? Well, I guess there might be more than five. We kind of kept you to five, and if I kept you to too few, we'll talk about that. But what's the next thing that they should do?
Yeah, so I think setting an intention for the day of something that you want to accomplish, um, and keeping it really simple and small. So maybe it's just one thing that you want to accomplish for the day. Maybe it's two or three, but when you have those huge long lists, that people write down of the gazillion things they want to do every day, and then you don't get through your list and you feel like you've had a failure of a day. If
Got it.
you say like, okay, here are the one, two, or three things that absolutely must get done today. And my goal is, and I'm going to judge it as a successful day. If I can accomplish these, then it's been a good day. So if a kid has a doctor's appointment or you have to present at a meeting, you have to remember to pick up the dry cleaning. That has to get done. Put those, set that as your intention. Keep it realistic, keep it simple, and then you can be successful at the end of the
So,
day.
as we've been talking through this a little bit, it makes me think of technology, right? Because there's a point where I wanted to lose a bunch of weight, and I did one of these calorie trackers, which was really incredibly um, effective. Granted, it was unsustainable, but it was really effective. And I know that there's an issue with technology where it can lead to disorders and things like that. So, but in what you're talking about, it seems like technology would be really awesome for people to track these steps, especially what they want to accomplish, drinking water. There's ones that track your nutrition from a dietary perspective. Where are you on the technology thing?
Yeah, and again, it's a personal thing, like having a very simple note app on your phone where you can like put these five things down and check them off each day, and then uncheck them the next day. If that's all you need, then that's great. And I know people who live by their food tracking apps, and it's what keeps them on target and keeps them feeling like they're in control. So it's a really personal thing. And then there are the people who have alarms on their phone for alarms for reminders, and all they do is they ignore them. So
Right,
finding
right.
that balance of when technology works and when there's really actually just a very simple solution like a post-it note on your desk. Like I've had a client who set a goal to do something. He wrote it on a post-it note on his desk, and every time he did it, he made a slash mark. So he knew on Friday if there were 5 slash marks on his desk,
It's
he
like
had been
prison. It's
successful.
like counting months in prison.
It was super simple. He didn't need another reason to look at his phone. It worked for him. It just kept it simple. So the kind of person you are, what kind of support you need. Some of these apps gamify it. And so maybe like there are water tracking apps. And so you can put an app on your phone that's going to remind you at 7 a.m. to drink a glass of water. And if you want to make sure you're drinking throughout the day, you can do it that way. And you can gamify it. So whatever speaks to you.
Now, when you're coaching somebody, do you handle that kind of bit? Like when they're trying to do this and they're talking to you, do you request that they give you kind of the data on whether they've been following it?
So we talk about what is going to hold them accountable. So if they set a goal to drink a glass of water every morning, I'll say, how are you going to make sure that you do this? And how are you going to hold yourself accountable? How are you going to track this goal. And we talk through different ways, and people kind of know what works for them. They know whether the phone alarms are things that they ignore, and whether the apps on their phone are what keeps them going. So we make sure that we address that, because accountability and tracking is key. Because if someone has set that as a goal, when we talk, I say, okay, like, did you meet your goal? And they can pull up, whether it's their post-it or open up their app and say, I hit it 6 out of 7 days.
Okay, that's cool. So accountability is a big part. Do you, I've seen, like, when I was using some fitness tracking apps and things, there's communities. Are there communities for stuff like this, and where's a good place to find it?
Yeah, I mean, there are communities for lots of things. A lot of those apps have communities. I run a group coaching program where we provide community for each other in the group too, as people are working on things. Um, yeah, lots of stuff online.
Yeah, and we're
Also.
going to get to that at the end. I would love for you to talk a little bit about the one that you've got. So obviously, there's a lot of ways stuff could get derailed. There's a lot of ways to fail, right? And that's why we love talking about the one mistake to avoid, right? Because I think what we try and insert into this is, hey, people do make mistakes, and here's the one that you're going to see yourself making. So what do you see people do as the biggest mistake?
Yeah, so this was hard because I was thinking, like, I was arguing with myself about what the biggest mistake was, because there are a couple of things obviously that
Well, and
you
if there's
can
more
do.
than one, seriously, we've got a little bit extra time.
Okay.
So the value of the information is more important than the format.
Yeah. So I think being reactive is the biggest mistake to starting your day, and letting something throw you off and introducing the chaos. So if you are a migraine sufferer and you know that some mornings you're just going to wake up with a migraine and there's nothing that you can do, or you have kids at home and you know some days they're going to wake up and you're not going to be able to drop them off at school because they're sick, to have a plan, to be have a day where you're intentional, and not have something just completely throw you into chaos and stress and hecticness.
So I want to ask a side question on that, because we've talked about, like, the days that will throw you off just because it's unexpected. But what you're talking about is a little bit of, in certain situations you have to expect that unexpected, because it happens with enough frequency that it's not going to happen every day, but it's going to happen. Is this something where you become more of a flow chart than a routine, and you're like, okay, today's going to suck, my head is going to explode, but I know now that I'm going to do these steps. Maybe it's about meditation and not exercise. Is that what you recommend when they do know that that's going to be something?
Yeah, and figuring out what are the important parts, so that at the end of the day you can look back and say, wow, like, I had a migraine and my kids were homesick, but it actually was an okay day. And I did something that supported myself and set a good tone, and I approached the day with calm intention.
I love it. Most people say I have a migraine because my kids are homesick. But no, that makes a ton of sense. It's cool. But you sounded like there were a couple of other mistakes you wanted to highlight, and I would love to hear what those are.
Yeah, so you mentioned one earlier, hitting the snooze button. So, for a couple reasons, like, if you've determined that you need an hour in the morning to get through your routine, and you've hit the snooze bar, and so now you only have 30 minutes, you're going to be rushed and you're going to be reactive, and it's going to be chaos. So, um, avoiding the snooze for those reasons is good. Also, sleep research again talks about that snooze sleep that you're getting is not good quality sleep, so you're just kind of wasting your time. So getting up and just starting your day when the alarm goes off. And so, some people need to figure out putting their alarm on the other side of the room, or whatever your strategies are. There are lots of different things that you can do for that.
So
But
I do have a question. This is a technology one again, because I read somewhere, and it seems like the alarm on my phone will, like, start quieter and sort of increase. And then there's alarms that you could get, or technology where your lights in your room will turn on sort of the way the sun rises. And not that it goes against what you were saying earlier, where it was sort of jump in with both feet, but are you a proponent of that in terms of the wake up, right? Because we said setting the alarm is before everything else, that sort of gradual movement into being woken up.
Yeah, and again, it's a personal thing. Like I've heard people's alarms and I think, "Oh my God, that has to be the worst way to wake up every morning."
Right.
But it works for them.
Or
And
or they didn't know how to change the alarm on their phone. Right. Right.
right, right. And that gradual light going on, like, yeah, maybe that's perfect for some people, and other people are like, that's not what I need. I need some kind of pleasant noise to go off in the morning. So
Yeah, mine is like it's like harps or something, and I got to make sure I'm not like at the pearly gates, right? I wake up, make sure that I'm not dead because it's like this weird thing, and I just never changed it. So I've really never given thoughts, but like nature might be a good way to go. Now, you mentioned a couple times things I want to highlight about your business. Um, First and foremost, if people want to get hold of you to maybe take you on as a coach or get more information, what's the best way to get hold of you?
yeah, so my website is www.swan-wellness.com, and there is a contact um, form that you can fill out that I will get and can respond to you. You can always email me too. It's Debra, Debra, at swan-wellness.com, and I can respond to you that way. And I offer a complimentary initial consultation where people can describe what their concerns are, what they're dealing with, what their goals are, and I can explain what health coaching is and how it could help them.
Now, another quick question on that. You're in Chicago, not right now. You're in sunny Florida, but right now for me, I'm in Chicago. You're in Chicago. If someone's listening to this and is not local, do you do virtual coaching?
I do all my coaching virtually.
Okay.
I do either by phone or video calls. It's a preference of the client. We started doing this during COVID, and people really like it. And my goal is to make being healthy and feeling your best accessible to everyone. So um, virtual seems to work. It fits into a busy day. If you have kids and you want to talk at 7:30 at night after bedtime, I do that. If you take a break during your workday, um, having a virtual video call or a phone call seems to make it easy for people.
Now, also, you talked about group things that you have. Are there group options as well?
Yeah, if you're more interested in doing something as a group, I have different groups running at different times, and I'm always open to a different idea for a group. I have done groups for women over a certain age because sometimes that groups has similar issues. So you let me know what you're interested in, and we can create a group that supports you. And if it's a group, just a general group that you're interested in, let me know and I can let you know when the next one is starting.
That's fantastic. And there's so many other things that we could have talked about. You'll definitely be back on the show. I would love to have you back on at a later date.
That
But
would be
thank you
great.
for coming out today. Really, we appreciate and it was wisdom, really. I mean, it was like great information, but it's a great way externally for people to look at these things. And I really do appreciate you sharing that with our audience. Again, you've been listening to Getting Started.Life, a show about starting new things. Every week we cover the 5 steps of starting a new endeavor and the big mistake to avoid. And if you know of a topic that you want to know more about getting started on, let us know. We'll find the expert. We'll have the show because we're here for you. If you've got something you want to share, if it's an endeavor that's changed your life or something that you're an expert in, reach out to us. It might make a great show. I want to thank everyone for listening. Today's show was brought to you by Keystone Mediation and Red Leg Funding. Thanks so much. We're on every other Tuesday. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Have a good one.